Peace, friends, and welcome to the Life's Better Together family wellness event. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Mrs. Myesha Langrey, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her on so she can introduce herself, and then we'll get started with this conversation. Welcome, Mrs. Langrey. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Mrs. Taylor. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to this wonderful event.
So,
I've been a mother for 23 years, going on 24. He'll be 24 this year. And what I do currently is I own a business, Miracle Solution Services. And that actually kind of grew from a place where people constantly were asking me to do like virtual administration work for them, people that I met online. And also, I helped assist a publisher transcribe some audio and video interviews for a book project. And they were like, you need to make this a business. I'm like, I've been kind of freelancing for a minute, but and not knowing all the time I actually had that name already written out. I didn't even realize it. So,
wow, talk about divine timing.
right, exactly.
Because this is such a blessing. Like, such a blessing. What are some of the challenges in your past 23 years of mothering that you've encountered?
Oh, wow. First of all, his entire life, he had my son Chance. He's been a transplant patient. He had a liver transplant when he was a baby. And so he came out of the womb and we had challenges right from the gate. And just coming into that space of having a child that had medical concern that I wasn't sure about, but he had biliary atresia, where his bile ducts were too small. So a lot of the things that the liver were supposed to filtrate out, the toxins were actually staying in his body. And so he had to go through a transplant and actually have his liver removed. And I was his recipient, his donor.
Whoa. Wow. How was that process? Like, I'm pretty sure you didn't have to think twice about it, but how did you walk yourself through that process knowing that, okay, I'm about to donate an organ to my child? You know, we're in this together. Like, did that bring you two closer?
Over the years, it did, taking him to his appointments and everything. It was always just me and him. I was a single mom for a while. I didn't get married for the first time until he was like 6 or 7. So I was a single mother for quite some time during that time. And yeah, just when I found out what he needed, obviously, like you said, there was no hesitation. It wasn't like, oh, the first thing the doctors tell you are the risks of what could happen. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Is he going to be okay?
Right. This is my baby. And talk about how we'll do anything and everything for our babies. Like my oldest son, because, I have 3 babies. My oldest son, he has an autoimmune disease. So like, I sympathize with you in that regard of having a child who has some health issues. And let me tell you, it has not been easy. And I just want to tip my hat off to you, Queen, because that's very difficult. When you got married, how was that transition for your son? Because I know it wasn't easy for my son. But how was that transition, and how did your love, strengthen the family bonds?
That was my first marriage. I'm now married the second time. So at that particular time, I still was developing into knowing who I was. So I didn't choose properly, let's just say. And so still pouring out that love of understanding that the decisions that I make, affect him, and really like trying to navigate that marriage. It was very short lived, and seeing the consequences of that on him made me want to dive into doing the inner work even more, because I saw the results of what could happen for myself as well as for him, because it's like everything rides on, the influence of the mother for the child and what happens to them and how it affects them in our decision making and relationships that we connect with and all of those things. So yeah, it was a lot. And just growing into loving myself, self-love is very important because that also is an effect from the mother. If that mother doesn't have self-validation, love, acceptance, we're going to bring any and everything into the dynamic of our relationships, and our children are there. And so that really, really affects them. And so it was not the greatest marriage. I lost a lot of weight. He lost a lot of weight, just from the stress of it. So I was in and out as quick as possible because I saw how quickly everything changed. And
So
so,
that's number one, how the love of the mother saved your family. Because for one, and I want a lot of people to understand that if you're a single parent or if you're married, your family is your family. And if it's just you and your child or your children, that's your family. And let me tell you, with you knowing, that you need to do the inner work and, starting your journey on self-love, that was like your wake up call to say, hey, I got to remove us from this situation. And a lot of things like that, yeah, it can be hard, especially with the societal pressures and societal norms. But your love, you could say your love saved your family. Your love saved you and your son. And now here you are today I know your son is healthy and thriving. You are healthy and thriving with that beautiful smile. The love of the mother, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Say I'm a first time mom and I don't know where to start with, loving a child. I kind of love myself, but I know I love this child. How can I strengthen the love for myself and in return strengthen the love for my child?
oh, that's such a good question. I only can share what I did. And what I did was I absorbed as much material that was like self development material, for people that are of faith. I dived into that more, not so much on the religious side of it, but more on the relationship side of it. But really, and really paying attention to the types of women that I was around that were mothers, and observing how they operated with or how they engaged with their family and with their children. You can really feel the energy from different people. And I was like, okay, you can tell there's something else behind the surface. So I'm like, no, I don't think I'm going to go over and ask them any questions. I don't even know if I want to receive any advice from them, no matter how bright and shiny it seems, because I want the quality of life. I don't want just, oh, I've been married a long time, I have had children a long time. But if you don't seem to carry that quality and you're putting on the smile, but then there's something underneath the surface of that smile, I don't know if I want that, because I feel like sometimes we accept everything when we're new mothers and we think we have to. And that's one thing that I learned when I was a new mom, was I don't have to accept unsolicited advice, especially if it's unsolicited advice from somebody that I would not trade lives with, because it's so serious. I had, family members and other women always giving that advice. Oh, this is what you should do, and you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't do that. I've said, first of all, not only is my son, but he's also a human being who I am developing and growing into their own little person. So they have their own ways. And people don't care about that, what I'm learning, what I'm still learning. People are like, children are not toys. They're not dolls that you can manipulate and do whatever. Learn who they are, because God put something in them too. And standing up for yourself. You can speak up for yourself, speak up for your family, speak up for your child, whether it be mama, grandmama, I don't care who it is. Sometimes you have to sit them down and have those conversations. Like, listen, I'm the mother at the end of the day.
And what about those seasoned mothers? See, I have a teenager, and I'm still in disbelief. And sometimes I feel like my motherhood journey is coming to an end because, I just feel like he won't need me anymore when he gets older. But for mothers like me and mothers whose children are growing up, what are your advice to them?
One of the things that I had to face was the fact that he would grow up one day and be like, I'm, he too can not accept unsolicited advice. So it became to a point where one of the things that I focused on was making sure that I know one day he's not going to be around me 24/7. He's going to have his own life. And I needed to create my own life, have my own hobbies, have my own things. Because a lot of times as women, as mothers, we will make our family our world. And then we're like, who are we? What are we? And what am I here for outside of that? And so you definitely want to develop something else outside of your family. Not, not that you're putting them to the side or putting them on the back burner, but we are so used to, decreasing ourselves and giving them everything. And then there's nothing left for us. It's to know that if they want to allow them to learn how to navigate the world and know that we are a soft cushion for them to fall back on, so that helped the transition. Because now he is on his own and I don't hear from him every day. I'm like, can I get a text, a phone call, something? And I know, the relationships are going to be different, but he's always been very independent since he was young. He's like, I'm a man. And he was 10. I was like, sir, you're not a man.
Wow. Thank you so much for saying that because, sometimes my son who'll be like, Mom, sometimes I feel like you're the only person I can talk to. What am I going to do when you're not around? And I told him, I said, even though I might not be there physically, I'm always going to be there in your heart. But as for you, you have you're even deeper. You gave your son one of your organs. So it's like, I ain't never leaving you. But that's so beautiful. But yes, we are our children's soft cushion for them to fall on. And to know that when we send them out in the world, that we did right by them. And that's one thing that I'm learning as a mother of 13 years, is to just be present and to love them unconditionally. And that's such a blessing. And I couldn't have thought of the more perfect person to have this conversation with today other than you. I learned some things that I didn't know about you. And I'm so grateful for you, Queen. And I'm thankful for you taking this time and sharing with us.
Never stop learning each other. Never stop giving room for growth. And learning how not to take everything so personally. Because our little hearts be hurting when they say things or do things that's opposite of what we would have wanted. So it helps. And just and really understand our role as mothers. We really have an influence that's so precious when it comes to our husbands, our children. We really can change the entire atmosphere based on how we feel and how we move and how we operate. And so just having the understanding of that, not feeling the heaviness of it, but embracing and appreciating that we are able to assist an entire generation. And what we pour into that generation and pour into our husbands and our family, when they go out into the world, not only are they seeing a reflection of themselves, but it's a reflection of what's going on at home.
Thank you so much, Queen. I truly do appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to speak to the new mothers, in between mothers, and seasoned mothers. Until next time, peace.